Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unchained, your no hype resource for all things crypto. I'm your host, Laura Shin. Thanks for joining this live stream, which is to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Unchained. But before we dive into today's show, we're going to hear a word from the sponsors that make this show possible. Fidelity has been investing in blockchain since 2014. They're not wondering if digital assets will shape the future. They're hiring the talent to help ensure they do. Explore opportunities today at crypto.fidelitycareers.com. Fidelity is an equal opportunity employer. This episode is brought to you by Cape, America's privacy-first mobile carrier. Same premium service you'd expect from any other carrier, but designed so your number, your location, and your data actually stay yours. Get 33% off 6 months at cape.co/unchained. Quick plug before we keep going. If you want crypto news without the hype, subscribe to the Unchained Daily. It's our free morning newsletter. The day's most important stories explained clearly in a few minutes. Sign up at unchainedcrypto.com/newsletters. So today's discussion is just reminiscing and chatting and letting our conversation take us wherever it takes us. Haseeb Qureshi, managing partner in Dragonfly, is here to chat with me for the 10th anniversary.
Yes, I am.
Welcome, Haseeb.
Congratulations on the 10-year anniversary. It's incredible.
Thank you.
How does it feel?
Like crazy. I started this podcast on the side. I was originally just doing it every other week. And it kind of carried my life in a whole different direction, which is so cool. You know, it's just like I loved crypto so much and I love podcasts. And yeah, I just started it because I wanted to do one. And then I saw Forbes they suddenly released 12 podcasts. And I was like, wait. I was like, I want to do one. So mine became the 13th. And I think mine is the only one still going out of all those.
I can believe that. I don't think I've ever heard a single Forbes podcast, but I have obviously heard Unchained nonstop for almost a decade. So tell me, okay, what was the very beginning of Unchained like? Who were you interviewing? Do you remember what your first interview was?
Yeah. So I started it on Necker Island. I got invited with like Betfury and Bill Ty and I met so many cool people. I met Vinnie Lingham there. I met Katie Hahn. Had a great time. And I interviewed Matt Rozak.
2016.
And Elizabeth Rosiello. And they were the two first shows I recorded on the island. And it's funny because when I edited the Elizabeth Rosiello one, I somehow missed the part where I asked her to lift her elbows off the table. So in the very first episode, there's this funny moment because I had this mic, a Yeti, where like if you hit the desk in any way, it would like make a noise. So I was paranoid about it because it was my first time, you know. But yeah, now I have a better mic. And then yeah, the even the show after that was Bill Ty. But you know, he's such an interesting person. But yeah, I was doing it every other week, and Forbes like paid for, you know, the engineer and everything. And then after the first season, they dropped it. And I was desperate to keep it going. So I was practically begging sponsors. Like I never sold a single thing in my entire life. Well, I guess, okay, I sold freelance pitches, but that's a different thing. And then, yeah, finally this company that had been doing some websites for different like crypto companies, they were like, oh, there's all these startups here. Like we should advertise on here. And so they did a full year sponsorship. They sponsored the whole thing for the year of 2017. They got...
Which company was this?
I think the name was On Ramp, actually, now that I think about it.
On Ramp.
Yeah.
Are they dead?
I don't know. I mean, they do like, you know, websites and marketing kind of materials for companies.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's not like I'm like covering them. But yeah, I think they got a really great bang for their buck because like the year 2017 was so huge for crypto. So Yeah.
Good for them. Okay, shout out to OnRamp. Okay,
Yes.
so when you first started the show, obviously you were not the first crypto podcast, but you were one of the first. It wasn't a lot of crypto media at the time. Obviously, now it's an enormous industry of media. So what was the angle when you were looking around at what Epicenter or some of these other podcasts were doing? Where were you like, okay, here's what I want my podcast to be about?
I mean, honestly, I didn't even have, like, a clear vision like that. The only things I knew were, like, Epicenter is a bit too technical. I mean, even for someone like me, like, I mean, granted, to say even for someone like me is funny phrasing. I just mean, even for somebody that is, like, really into crypto and willing to kind of learn technical stuff without a technical background, that's what I mean by that. Um, and yeah, then it was like, let's talk Bitcoin, which was more talk radio vibes. So I didn't even like need a vision because it basically was like I just need something that's more for people like me, like everyday people who are interested in this and don't have a technical background. So that's kind of what it ended up being, really.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so I remember in the early days, you did not own any crypto. And that
No,
was
that's not
my
true.
understanding.
I owned
Is
it.
that not true? Wait,
I
what?
so okay, I just need to, like, set the record straight because everybody repeats this fiction to me all the time, and it's not true. You guys, I bought my first Bitcoin in 2015. So, I bought Bitcoin was, like, $200. And, then I bought Ether at some time, which I don't remember when, but I'm sure whatever the price I got was, like, amazing. And then I quit Forbes in 2018. And the very first freelance articles I ever wrote were for the New York Times, and they said, "Well, you can't write if you're gonna own crypto." And I realized because, like, so Forbes would let you write if you disclosed. Like, publications have different policies, you know? And when the New York Times said that to me, I kinda realized, "Oh, shoot, like, every publication, I'm gonna have this issue where" or not every, but for whichever publications have that policy that you can't own, I'm going to have this issue. So I was like, "Hmm," and you guys, I mean, just to also explain because people find it so shocking that I sold my crypto for this reason, but just so you understand, like, I have wanted to be a writer since I was, like, 9 years old. Like, this is just I knew since I was a kid, this is, like, my what I'm this is my lane. This is what I'm supposed to do. I love it. Writing is, like, my favorite thing. I am so grateful that my career worked out in such a way where I can do what I do. And because like I have this friend who's Turkish and crypto is very big in Turkey. And when her friends found out that she was friends with me, they were like, "Oh my God." And they were like, "How can she not own crypto?" Like they couldn't understand, but she's also a journalist like me. So she was like, "Well, it's because like that's our profession." There she was like trying to explain like this is just a thing, you're not supposed to like be in or like I said, some publications will allow you if you disclose it. But anyway, so I sold for that reason because I was like, "Oh, shoot, like, if I wanna write for The New Yorker or, like, Vanity Fair or, like, what," then this could be an issue, and I was like, "Oh, it's better to just not own it." And then the reason why I now own it again is because, in 2022, after my book came out, I was, like, writing for a bunch of places to promote the book, and Wired reached out. Oh, I think I wrote about this in a way where I didn't reveal the publication, but I just accidentally did that in a live stream, so, oh well. But anyway, so they wanted me to write something, and then afterward, an editor reached out being like, "Oh, well, actually," like a different editor, being like, "Well, actually, you run a publication that takes sponsorships from crypto companies, so, we don't think you can write for us." And I had a phone call with this person. I was like, I'm a subscriber to Wired, and I can see that in the most recent issue, every single ad is by a tech company. So your company
Mm.
and my company have the same exact business model. And yeah, they still wouldn't let me do it. So I think after that, looking back, I wish I'd bought in immediately, but I was dealing with so much personal stuff, like, I've said it multiple times, just, like, my health thing has been a very extreme story, so I just didn't think about it, I had so many other things I was doing, and then, yeah, I think, like I forget, like, at some point after Trump got elected, then, yeah, I bought back in, I was like, "Okay, this is stupid," publications won't even let me write for them anyway, so I might as well just own crypto.
Screw them.
And
Screw
yeah, and
them.
I'll
It's
like
fine.
and anyway, I like writing books, and, so I'll probably focus more on that in terms of my
Mm.
writing. So,
Okay, so you have seen over these 10 years the highs and the many, many lows of this industry. And you've seen a lot of people, a lot of characters in this industry go through their own rise and falls. What surprised you the most in seeing somebody's personal story the way that it unwound?
I mean, so this is not going to be an original answer, but the SPF thing was, like, a huge shocker, you know?
Mm. How many times did you interview him?
Oh gosh, I didn't know him well at all. I maybe interviewed him, like, twice on the show, but I actually don't know. I know for sure it's more than once, but I don't know if it was, like, 3 times or 4. I actually don't know the number.
Mm.
Um, but, like, yeah, I have so many thoughts about that one. So, okay, so let's just so I know you sent me some questions you were gonna ask me, but I'm just gonna answer,
Yeah,
like, kind of a bunch of
go for it.
stuff about SBF right now. So, um, okay. So first of all, one of my biggest regrets has to do with SBF, which is that after the collapse of FTX, I wanted to interview him on the podcast, but also I was writing this book proposal. And I thought if I get him on the pod, but I'm antagonistic, then it could potentially close off like a bunch of interviews for the book. So I was like kind of hemming
Wait,
and hawing.
while FTX was collapsing, you were worried about SBF's power to cancel your
No,
book?
no, no. Just not no, no, no. Not that he would have any power. No, no, no. But more that if I like reveal my cards about like what I'm interested in or whatever, then like people around him might close up and my ability to get information for
Oh,
the
I
book would
see. I see. I
yeah,
see. Okay, got it.
because
Got it. Got it.
I had
You need them as sources so you can interview them later. Okay, and you don't want to
yeah,
reveal yourself as an antagonist.
yeah, because I definitely had the experience with my first book, with the book about Ethereum and the ICOs and that whole thing, that there were times when I got, like, some juicy information, and when I needed confirmation, somehow word got out, and sources that had previously been so friendly and open and giving me all kinds of stuff,
Mm,
they just closed up, clammed up, didn't respond, like, somehow people knew what I was after and just I just could not get anywhere, and so there's some
right.
juicy bits I was not able to put in my book, which is very disappointing, but, um, so I maybe because I'd had that experience, I was kinda like, "Hmm," and looking back so in the end, I know I had announced before that I got a book deal to do a book on FTX. I had to cancel it just because I had way too much stuff going on with my health. It
Mm,
just like, that kind of undertaking would have been serious hours, and I just needed the hours for my own personal health journey, which, I will probably be revealing to people in some way. What happened to me health-wise is truly insane and crazy, and I've been, like, living a secret life about it. I'm ready to, like, come out of the closet about it, but I am talking with my agent to figure out how this is gonna happen, and if they even wanna represent the new me, at all, because, I'm a very different person than I was when I started the podcast 10 years ago. But anyway, so to go back to FTX and SBF, my opinion about that, and I think David Morris maybe covered this in his book, is just like, the more I learned about effective altruism, and this is also why, like, I'm a huge fan of Anthropic and Claude, but that whole oh, shit, you are an effective altruist.
that is correct. That is
Oh my
correct.
god,
Yes, I
okay, so
am.
let's have this
No, no, go
conversation.
for it. Go for it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
let it out.
So
Let it
this
out.
is my criticism, and I'd love
Okay.
to hear you respond to this.
Yeah.
So when I learn about the effective altruist philosophy, to me, it's like the person who is being the effective altruist feels like they have given themselves a license to play God. And I just don't think that that's, like, appropriate or necessary, and through covering crypto, like, do you remember when I wrote that article saying that I was gonna vote for Kamala and stuff?
I do remember that. Yes, of
Right.
course.
Okay, you guys, I'm not a Democrat anymore. I'm independent. I don't even know if I'm a liberal. Maybe I am, but I also, through covering crypto and also through seeing what hypocrites the Democrats are, I'm now more libertarian, which I like. Before I like really understood libertarianism, I was always like, what the fuck? Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's just anarchy. That's terrible. And now I'm like, oh, actually, I think that probably makes the most sense. But anyway, so like because now I have like a little bit more of a libertarian philosophy, that's another reason why I don't like effective altruism. To me, it just feels like SBF thought that he knew better. Like he thought that he could decide what is the greatest good for the most people. He felt like he had that position. Nobody gave it to him. He just took it because he has this philosophy. And I think that it's just not appropriate. Like, people should be allowed to make their own choices. You cannot make choices for them, and obviously explicitly in the terms of their company policies. It did not give him the right to just take their money and manage it the way that he thought was uh, whatever he thought was best. So, but yeah, I'm curious. I'd love to hear your response to that. I just remembered you're an effective altruist.
Yeah. Okay, so I think first of all, it's important to disentangle SBF and his personal decisions from a moral philosophy. I think it's a little bit like saying, okay, this Catholic priest did these really horrible things to children, therefore Catholicism is a bad religion and it causes these decrepit things. I think it's like there were a lot of things that SPF did, like violating his terms of service or stealing money and funneling it to a market maker, that there's no moral philosophy that says anything about whether or not you should be doing things like that. And I don't know anybody who would answer to the name of effective altruism in the year 2022 who would look at what SBF did and say, yeah, that's what our moral philosophy says that you should do. I think it's very clear SBF had his own weird messiah complex or his own kind of moral whatever perversions that led him to believe, and I don't even think it was a moral perversion, to be honest. I think it was almost like a power perversion, that he just kind of believed that nothing could go wrong, that he would just keep winning and everything would work out and crypto prices would go up and BlockFi would be saved and his lenders would be saved and like Alameda would be saved. And this is kind of, to me, just ordinary delusion of grandeur. It happens to people all the time, and we don't attribute it to their moral philosophy. Now, when for SBF, like what specifically does effective altruism say that lands with this idea of, oh, it is on me to decide what is good for other people? There's actually nothing about effective altruism that has anything to do with that. The core of effective altruism is this idea that you should use your resources, your money, your time, your energy, whatever, to the thing that's going to have the greatest impact on the greatest number of people. That's the idea. It's a very simple idea.
Oh, it's about your own resources.
Yes, there is nothing about effective altruism that says you should take control of the government or of institutions or of corporations and get them to violate the rules in order to do what you have morally calculated in an Excel sheet is the optimal outcome. That's like a cartoon version of what effective altruism says you should do, or what most effective altruists do. Most effective altruists do like boring ass jobs, working at nonprofits or working in some government, blah, 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 or like, an NGO or something. Or they just do what I do, which is they earn money and they donate it. So it's sort of like, for me, what I do with my donations doesn't affect anybody else. I'm not controlling anybody else. I'm not telling them what they should do. Like doing that over and above what effective altruism actually demands is not effective altruism. It's you kind of being a douchebag. Like that's you being arrogant about this idea that you understand something from your vantage point of running a crypto exchange, that you somehow understand how all resources should be allocated across the world.
Okay, so I don't know that much about effective altruism. So is it essentially like he over applied the philosophy? Is that a way to think about it?
I wouldn't even put it in those terms. I would just say that he had delusions of grandeur and he was very powerful. And that was the reality. Like, why did SBF have that much impact at all? The answer was because he had a lot of money, or at least he had
But
on
he
paper,
didn't.
right? He donated
His
hundreds of
exchange
millions of
did.
dollars. Right. He donated hundreds of, I mean, he owned the majority of the exchange. He donated hundreds of millions of dollars. He invested billions of dollars. He was making political donations. He had the influence in the ear of celebrities and politicians. That is why he had so much impact. The
Right, but
way
he
in
was
which
doing
he
it
used
with
that
customer money, not his money.
correct, exactly, yes, totally. But the reason why he had that impact was because he was so powerful, right? It wasn't because of effective altruism that he did that. Now, when you are really powerful, something informs how you're going to do what you do, right? If you're the Koch brothers, or if you're, whatever, Warren Buffett, you're also very powerful, and you decide how you're going to use that power. I think saying that, okay, well, SBF did this, therefore it's effective altruism's fault, and let's get out our pitchforks and let's go burn down, the Center for Effective Altruism because they did this. I'm like, that seems like not the right answer. It seems like, no, SBF was like a uniquely fucked up guy. He was like on, he was clearly very autistic. He was on
No, I don't
amphetamines
agree with
almost the
that.
entire time that he was
I don't
there.
agree that he was
You don't
autistic.
believe that he was autistic? I have interacted
No,
with SBF
I
many times.
no,
I think it's
I don't.
very clear he was like
No, I
extremely
no.
Asperger's.
I mean, I have physically been in his presence and the presence of Vitalik, and I would definitely not call SBF autistic.
I think he's on the spectrum. Do you not think he's on the spectrum?
I think that he has been on different kinds of drugs that have altered his personality for a very, very long time.
You think so? I first met SBF in, I think it was 2015. Before he ever got into crypto, I met him
And
at an effective altruism
altruism.
conference, first effective altruism conference I ever went to, which was EA Global in 2015. And I met him in a hallway, and I knew who he was because he was one of the few people who was actually doing effective altruism and donating money. He was working at Jane Street at the time. At the time, it was like, he donated, I don't know, 150K, which was a big sum of money for effective altruism at that time. So he was like a big donor in our little tiny microcosm. And I was, I wasn't making any money at the time, so I wasn't donating anything yet. But I met him, and he was just like a nerdy little autistic kid, just like most of the people who are in effective altruism. So look, clearly he is not Vitalik, but I think if you say that he's nowhere on the spectrum, I think anybody who watches an interview of him would dispute that characterization.
I mean, I think he's been taking a lot of drugs for a very long time. That's what I'll say.
Yes, clearly he's been on these like Adderall and then whatever else he's taking, all these OCD drugs for a
Yeah,
very
so
long time.
that's altered his personality.
I agree with that, but I don't think that's a complete description of his neuroatypicality.
I love that we have veered into the direction of diagnosing somebody from afar.
You asked me, so I'm answering. Okay, all right. Let's bring this back to you were going to tell me about the most notable interviews and what you would have done differently if you had the opportunity. Interviewing these very
okay. Well, okay, sorry. So on SBF though, I just wanted to say one last thing is looking back, so no regrets, but especially now that I'm not doing the FTX book, or if I do it, it will be at some point in the future, but I don't know if there will be interest then. But anyway, since I didn't end up doing it, I really wish that I had interviewed him after the collapse. And I knew from day one, or like the moment I thought of it, what my first question was going to be, which was I was going to say to him, describe to me the cold storage setup at FTX. I was going to ask him that. That was going to be my first question, because it was just so obvious from the first moment that like they clearly did not take care with customer funds, which is very strange for a crypto exchange after Mount Gox and like name any crypto exchange before Coinbase and after Coinbase and like Kraken and like they all failed in some way because of hacks and all those things. So for any exchange that started in, what was it, 2018, and didn't take care of like that's a major red flag. And as we saw in the trial, yeah, there was a backdoor from day one. So I feel like that would have been a really good question, and I kind of regret, and nobody asked him that. I even noticed like the prosecutor didn't somehow understand that they did not treat it as a normal exchange, which should be treated as like a vault. They treated it as like their, personal slush fund.
Right.
Okay. But in terms of like other interviews, I do have one regret, which is that I've never had Brian Armstrong on the show.
What?
I asked him at one point, he did say yes, and then when I followed up, there was no response, and I don't think I've asked him that many times since, but, I saw later he has a whole little checklist for deciding, and one of them is the interviewer friendly? And he will only do it if they're friendly,
Oh,
and I'm not
okay.
unfriendly, but I'm not friendly, it's like, being neutral and friendly are not the same.
Right.
So I feel like maybe that's why they haven't
So, okay,
really.
explain your philosophy about, like, neutrality versus being friendly versus being unfriendly. Like, how do you think about what's the stance you're trying to land as an interviewer?
um I'm trying to put the audience first and ask the questions that they would want to know. So sometimes they want to know something that's a tough question for the guest. And so I'm not going to shy away because I want to deliver for my audience.
Mhm.
So in the hierarchy, it's like audience first, then, well, actually, it's funny. I haven't thought about it beyond that because I was going to say,
Okay,
wait,
okay.
like sponsors next or guests next, or I don't know. They're sort of equal, I
Sponsors
guess.
next, sponsors next,
Yeah,
sponsors next.
sponsors really. And then lastly,
So you'll go
guests.
easy, you'll softball a sponsor related interview.
No, no. I mean, first of all, we don't like. Yeah. By the
Oh,
way,
sponsor second. You just said sponsor second.
well, I mean, for the business, but not in the interview.
Not in the interview. Okay.
I mean, the only time is every once in a while, a sponsor will hire me to do an interview, and then I'm not gonna ask tough questions because 'cause they're literally paying me, at a conference or, just mostly it's at conferences. I think one of the times for a sponsored episode or interview like that, we agreed to play it on the podcast, but we said it was, like, part of a sponsorship package.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, hypothetical. What if there's somebody that your audience wants you to fawn all over? Like, that there's just this hagiography about this person, and they don't want you to ask tough questions.
um
Do you ask tough questions anyway?
it's hard to ask without any specifics. I guess, like, probably the one interview that comes to mind when you ask me that is the Michael Saylor interview where,
Mm,
I asked him if he would sell if the Bitcoin like, if he would ever try to sell and then, like, buy back in later or something, and then he said, "Oh, it's going up forever, Laura." I so if you watch that whole interview from beginning to end, I think he was annoyed at me because I asked him about the accounting irregularities at MicroStrategy in the year 2000. But the way I asked it, I meant it as like a reflections type of question, but I also asked it because I wanted the audience to understand him fully and, warts and all, basically. So it was like both. It was like not necessarily relevant to present day MicroStrategy, but it was just relevant to understanding the person. And so I asked in a way where I was like trying to ask him if he had any like lessons or anything, from that he kind of wanted to mention. I think he was annoyed that I brought it up. So that's why, like, in the second half of the interview, he was just getting annoyed with me. And that's why he said, like, it's gonna go up forever, Laura. Um, so yeah, that would probably be an interview where everybody would have wanted me to be just fawning. Um, and I don't think I was, like, aggressive at all because I didn't necessarily mean
mm,
it, but I thought it was an important piece of his biography for the audience to just know about. So I wanted to work it in somehow. I didn't think it was, like, 100%, you know, directly relevant to Bitcoin and all that, but I thought it was important to understanding him as a person. So okay, okay. You know what? We have to do a quick ad break, so we're gonna do that right now, and then we'll come back and we will wrap up this discussion, which has been really fun. Thank you for doing this with me.
of course.
Fidelity has been researching and investing in blockchain since 2014, long before it was a headline. And they're hiring crypto and DeFi professionals to join their team and discover what's next in finance. Fidelity is looking for people with fresh perspectives from different backgrounds, whether it's tech, UX, or product design, whether you're crypto savvy or crypto curious, as long as you have the passion to make a real impact at a company striving to make finance accessible to all. Explore crypto careers at Fidelity today and make the decision that could change your future for the better. Visit crypto.fidelitycareers.com to learn more. That's crypto.fidelitycareers.com. Fidelity is an equal opportunity employer. If you hold crypto on your phone, your biggest vulnerability isn't your wallet, it's your carrier. AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile have been breached again and again, and SIM swaps are still one of the easiest ways for attackers to drain accounts. That's where Cape comes in, America's privacy-first mobile carrier. Same premium service, but Cape rotates the identifier on your SIM every 24 hours, deletes your call and text metadata after a day, and protects against SIM swaps with a 24-word recovery phrase that only you control. You also get 2 middle-to-end encrypted secondary numbers for banking and signups, so you stop handing your real number to every app that asks. Go to cape.co/unchained and use code UNCHAINED for 33% off your first 6 months. Before we dive back in, a quick word about something we make ourselves. If you like the way we cover crypto on this show, clear-eyed, no shilling, just what actually matters, you'll like the Unchained Daily. It's our free newsletter that lands in your inbox every weekday, with the most important stories in crypto written by journalists, not marketers. No jargon, no hype, no number go up cheerleading. Just the news you need to stay ahead in the time it takes to drink your coffee. Subscribe for free at unchainedcrypto.com/newsletters. Back to my conversation with Haseeb. And by the way, he wants me to let you all know that I think he's one of the most gifted communicators.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate you saying that not under duress. Okay, I have another question for you. So you were just talking about the sailor clip. One of the things that you've been doing is not just creating content, but you've also been a very online, very public person. You're probably one of the most vocal women, especially in this industry, and obviously one of the most vocal journalists. What has been your most favorite and least favorite social media conflict that you've been a part of over the last decade?
Wait, so like meaning a crypto Twitter brawl?
Yeah, just like a beef or a viral clip or something goes totally nuts and you get pulled into it. What has
Okay.
been most favorite, least favorite?
Least favorite was for sure the the fight that I had with Charles Hoskinson, which wasn't even a fight. It was him attacking me and me just reciting the facts, which were that he claimed multiple times that he dropped out of a PhD program to pursue Ethereum. And it's not true, you guys. I fact checked my book and I reached out to the colleges, and one of them doesn't even have a PhD program that's only undergrad. And the other one was like, no, he was an undergrad. So he was an undergrad of both. He dropped out of both. He never was in a PhD program, at least as far as I can tell. I'm Charles, if you're listening to this and you have evidence that you were enrolled in a PhD program, please go ahead and send it. I could not contact every single PhD program in the country to ask, but I do know that the two, colleges where he was enrolled said no, he was not a PhD student. I don't know why you would lie about something like that, except for the fact that apparently he told multiple people or insinuated to multiple people that he was Satoshi Nakamoto. Anyway, the reason I bring all this up is that I, relayed all these things in my book, which, by the way, I interviewed more than 200 people for it, people. So, I'm just letting you know where the information is coming from. If anything was single sourced, we would my fact checker and I would phrase it in a way where you would know that it was kind of like not as backed up as most of the other information. But anyway, so after my book came out, he is like somebody asked him about it and he said something like, it's a nice work of fiction, which you guys, I literally spent tens of thousands of dollars on my fact checker. The book, the publisher doesn't pay for that. Honestly, I think I probably paid more for the fact checker than I made from the book. that is probably a true no, okay, maybe sorry, it's not a true statement, but I probably like half of my everything I made from the book I spent on the fact checker, just so you know. So anyway, point is that what happened then is all the Cardano people started attacking me. And I literally blocked, like, I ended up having to block thousands of people. Was there for a book event, and somehow this
Mm.
whole thing blew up. And yeah, I remember sitting in my Airbnb, block, 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 and then, but then I had people like slide into my DM because by the way, Cardano people, at least at that time, I don't know about now, but they were really nasty. And so people were attacking me, telling me that I was like ugly and like all this stuff. And then I got a bunch of guys in my DMs being like, I think you're pretty.
Like,
It was
what?
like it was crazy.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and then yeah, so that was probably one of my least favorite just because it was so stupid. Like the facts were completely on my side. He just made up this thing about how it's fiction, which was not true. Again, he made something up yet again. This is totally in character for him. And his people were just angry at me because I was saying something negative that was true about the cult leader of their coin. And so it just was like stupid. But as for favorite one, oh my god, that I'm gonna have to think about that.
Mm.
Um, maybe I don't know. I know, I know. Okay. Do you remember when Virgil Griffith got arrested for yeah
Yeah,
helping North Korea? Okay,
that's right.
so this just blew my mind because it's like for somebody who claimed to want to help North Korea, he clearly knew absolutely zero, like potentially negative about the country North Korea. And
Mm.
so probably one of my more viral tweet threads was where I explained North Korea to people. And I explained how if you want to help North Koreans, you have to do it in secret. Because if you do it in a government sanctioned way, you are helping the fucking dictatorship. You are helping the people that are oppressing 25 million North Koreans. And Virgil Griffith knew so little about North Korea that he went there and helped the dictatorship and thought he was helping the fucking North Koreans, but instead he was helping oppress them even further, which I just thought was fucking bonkers. So, yeah, that was probably maybe one of my more favorite tweet threads that I did just because
Mm.
my ancestors had to escape from actually at the time it wasn't actually North Korea, but Kim Il Sung was in power. They had to escape
Right.
before it officially became North Korea. And I really credit my grandfather for being so smart that he was like a real staunch believer in democracy and capitalism for having the foresight to do that. And if it weren't for that, then yeah, I wouldn't be around. And like like but a big chunk of my relatives are here in the US. And yeah, so you know uh yeah, members of my family would have been instead born in North Korea and potentially lived their lives out in the gulag. So
Well, kudos to you.
yeah, I was happy to educate people
Um,
about that.
yeah, okay. So you've been doing this for 10 years now. When you go back, I don't know if you've looked at any of your old interviews, but when you go back and watch like some of the very early interviews, what do you cringe at now that you're just like, oh my God, I'm so much better at this than I was back then?
Okay, wait, by the way, I do not go back and watch old
You
interviews.
don't? You never? Okay, if
Really,
you
oh, wait,
did,
it
if you
was
did.
a podcast up until, I forget what year we switched to doing video in addition, but anyway, no, you guys, there is so much going on in crypto. I have, like, crazy amounts going on with my health. I only infrequently even get to re-listen to any episodes I've done, which typically is in preparation for a different show. You know what I mean? So I will listen to parts of it right after when I'm, like, editing the show notes, but yeah, the I mean, I have a question. Do you listen to the chopping block after you record it? Like, when it gets
Oh yeah,
released?
every time.
Oh,
Always.
really?
Yeah, I feel like if you're not listening to yourself, how can you get better? How do you realize, oh, I phrased this question badly. Oh, we spent too much time here. This part was boring. I feel like if you're making a good show, you have to like critique yourself and
Oh
figure
my
out how to
god,
get
you're
better.
putting me to shame. No, I guess okay. I don't I've listened to enough of myself that I know what I don't think I'm the best at. And one
Mm.
is just like I did now. I started to say something and I was like, and I changed, what I was going to say. Like that is I mean, I guess like a lot of people speak that way. Um, and maybe I do that because I'm sort of thinking in real time. But, there are some people when you hear them interview, they just cleanly ask a question and that's it. And I'm not always like that. So,
Mm.
yeah, but otherwise, like, I think
Okay, what
truly,
do you think you've gotten better at over the last decade? Let me ask you a crisper way.
um, I think I've gotten better at quick follow-ups. Um, I think I've gotten better at structuring the show, actually. That's probably a big one. Um, and the other thing, frankly, is that now that there's so much more going on in my life, I have gotten better at winging it. So,
Mm.
essentially, there have been numerous times when, because I like to write a script. If for whatever reason I don't get to finish it, as long as I get off on a good start and I kind of know the flow, I can wing the end of it, but I don't like to wing the whole thing. That is really bad. Then I just don't feel like it's structured well. But,
Right.
um, but yeah, I think I'm better at winging it. I don't know. What about you? How do you feel like you've improved?
Well, we do a very different kind of show than you do, in that we don't really interview people per se. So a lot of what I have come to appreciate is, so in our show, in the chopping block, it's generally four people. We're talking about different topics in the news, and we're kind of spitballing off each other. And one of the things that I've realized is that a crappy version of that show is four people go in a circle and give a comment on the thing in the news. The best version of the show is a version where you see four very well defined characters showing their character through responding to what's happening in the world and interacting with each other in what's happening in the world. So it's almost like a play. And as the moderator of the show, it's my job to like bring that play to life, as opposed to reciting information to the audience and letting people add more information to the audience. um, I realize that that is when the show is at its best. That's when people really remember what's going on. That's when it's like fun to listen to the show. That's when people are like not zoning out when they're listening to it. So that's been a big learning for me in the art of running a show, is that it's, at the end of the day, it's infotainment. It's not
Yeah.
pure information transmission, but it's also not pure entertainment, right? Nobody would listen to the show if it was just the four of us broing out on a couch. Like the crypto is the structure, but it actually gets filled with the character development that you see of like, oh, this is Haseeb and Trun are fighting. Oh, Tom thinks this. Oh, he's speaking over him, and now they're starting to get like those dynamics are actually what brings the show to life. And I
Yeah.
don't think I appreciated that when we started.
I mean, you're such a gifted moderator. By the way, I want to take credit for being the one to appoint you the moderator
That's
because
true.
yeah, um, yeah, it was funny. Like, I think I've told this story before, but when you guys came to us and you had done a few shows and I shared it with my staff, some people were like, "No, this is really bad." Um, so yeah, when we appointed you moderator, then it like really clicked, and now it's amazing. I mean, okay, here are the things I think you do so well. Number one,
Mm.
you are a good timekeeper. Number two, you are an excellent um like summarizer, but sorry, you're an excellent storyteller. So you give a recap of the news, but you do it in a way where like people understand the drama, they kind of understand what the different viewpoints are. You have like a little arc to the story. Like you're really good at that little, capsule summary. And then you're also good at making sure that everybody weighs in, but you don't keep such a tight rein that there aren't moments of spontaneity. And that's why people love the show. It's like those moments when suddenly everybody's like, and they all want to say something, or like you're
Right,
speaking
that's
over each
right.
other and fighting and whatever. Those are the most fun moments. And so you keep just the right level of tightness, or around the important things, and you have like a good loose rein on, to allow spontaneity.
That was exactly the lesson that I had to learn. I think in the beginning, I was, kind of like a jockey that was gripping the horse reins a little too tight. And it's like, oh, we have these topics and we have this time limit and we have to like hit the topics in the time limit. Um, and we have to go around and everybody has to say their little piece. And I realized like, no, 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 no. Actually, that's not the best way to like bring the energy out of the show and to bring the most character out of these people. So I think the failure mode that we've fallen into as a show actually is when we become more like Unchained, where we bring on a guest and we all kind of take turns asking the guest a question. And like it's very Unchained style in that sense, but we don't have your like we're a friendly interviewer, right? There are people who will do our show who will not do your show because we intentionally. So when we do the chopping block, we tell people if you ever mess up, you say something that you want edited, tell us. We're very happy to remove it. We want to make you look good. Like we're not here to be your enemy. We're not here to gotcha you. And if there ever is somebody who comes on the show, we want to make sure that we're not there to gotcha them. You know, we want them to have it to be a platform to give their best self. And if they want really tough interview, they go to Laura. They don't go to us. And we're happy to play because we're on the side of the industry. We're not neutral. We don't pretend to be neutral. Um, the flip side of that though is that often we'll get somebody on the show who is there to sell something or is there to like parade around their accomplishment or their company. And then we just kind of dutifully take turns asking them questions. And then we're just kind of thinking of what the next question is. And then we say that. And then those shows I think are very not entertaining.
Yeah.
I think when we're having fun is when the show is at its best.
Yeah, I think you should just tell people that, like, there'll be a segment that's focused on them, and then the rest, they have to participate, in the group discussion. Um, I can think of one particular interview that you guys did that you guys were very unhappy about. I'm not gonna say who it was. I just remember the conversation, the Telegram group afterward. And I agree, your show shines when it's banter. By the way,
Yeah.
I have a question for you. What if I were to not be a journalist and just be more like a person and just like chit chat with people and banter and be more opinionated and less neutral? Do you think it would work? Because these I'm asking you as a real question. This is a real question of something that I'm thinking about. The audience who's listening to this might have an opinion. And if so, feel free to tweet at me or send me a DM. But yeah,
I
I'm thinking about this.
yeah, I think it would absolutely work. That said, I don't know if that is you. So I'd want to see you do it a few times before I would give an opinion on it. I think if you actually feel comfortable, I think in a way, like, look, you've been doing this for a long time. It's like very deeply burned into your psyche that like I'm a journalist. I follow the journalistic practice and ethic. I spent $30,000 fact checking, the blah blah blah, whatever. And I think like it's almost like it's like when you see like a retired general and they sort of still salute and they still have the perfect posture. I feel like that might be you. I don't know, but I think you have a stature in the industry and you have a level of influence that you could get away with that now. And I think when you started, maybe the journalist ethos or the journalist identity was more important for you to be able to get the influence and the power that you now have. But it's sort of like, okay, you can sort of kick that out now where you're like, you can imagine like Dan Rather just goes and starts a talk show and it's like, okay, well, it works because you're Dan Rather and you can just do that. Um, that's, but like you have to kind of exhale enough to expand into that position.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the reasons I'm thinking about this are because of, as I've mentioned, my really crazy health journey, which made me much more radicalized than I ever have been over anything in my entire life. um, and yeah, so I, I like honestly, it's very interesting doing this 10th anniversary episode with you as a free form discussion because yeah, behind the scenes, there's a lot of thoughts I'm having and things that I'm sort of working on revealing in different ways. I'm not ready to do it just yet. But point is that I personally have changed so much as a person that it's just making me question everything.
Mm.
And some of the stuff I experienced in my health, even led me to be like more libertarian. It like gave me, even like my disillusionment with the Democratic Party and just like understanding kind of what hypocrites they are and stuff like that. It's all a piece of kind of the same thing. And you know, I don't know, it's just like um the way to put it, and this is just such a crypto thing, is to maybe have faith in institutions and then just have that like ripped from your the blindfold ripped from your eyes.
Right.
And anyway, so the reason I'm saying all that is like because I now have way more opinions on so many things that I didn't used to have. It's just making me even question this sort of like neutral, yeah, the neutral way that I've been approaching everything, which I think it's so important for democracy, but is my little podcast like you know what I mean? It's like
Mhm.
I have life experience and I have knowledge that has given me opinions. And so it's
Right.
probably helpful to some people if I were to share them. So, but yeah, nothing's decided, but these are questions that I'm asking myself. So,
So, okay, the last angle that maybe is worth exploring is that, you've carried the journalistic practices that you learned as a journalist into independent journalism here at Unchained. And there's been this broader movement in society of journalism consolidating, a lot of the old guard of journalists going out of business or dying off or just having to change their business models. And the rise of independent journalism and much more almost like a weakening of these traditional journalistic norms in favor of the very positional and kind of tribal new media landscape that we see today. The rise of Substacks, the rise of citizen journalists, the Twitter sphere, all this stuff has really changed a lot since even just 10 years ago. um, Unchained is a part of that. How do you reflect on that transformation that's happened in your career as a journalist and as a entrepreneur now?
I think it's just so much better for humanity in like 5 million different ways. I honestly, I mean, this is something I've been thinking about so much. I guess like the really short version of the health thing is just like I realized that listening to the establishment was not at all helping me. And the help that I really got with my health came from the most unlikely corners and the most disrespected corners. And that was the real seed of my radicalization. And so now I'm realizing just what a gift it is that everyday people have access to make their own media and that we have so much choice in terms of the different kinds of media that we consume. And it's funny because like my previous liberal self would like bemoan how people don't have their facts right, and like the mainstream media by and large gets a lot of things right, and so if they just consumed like the right media they would have the fact. And no, 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 like now I understand just the levels of corruption there are and even the way that knowledge is propagated in society. I mean, like even like simple things that are coming out, like this biolabs thing that I came out in the last few days or whatever. You guys, by the way, I don't watch a lot of like mainstream news. I don't even own a TV. So if I talk about the mainstream news in a way that seems weird to you, that's why. It's because I'm getting this in like little dribs and drabs on social media. But yeah, but the point is that that's another reason why I was thinking about maybe trying to have be more opinionated, because I realized that that is a service, and like finding people who kind of, speak to what you're dealing with at that moment is actually really important. And I think that, yeah, I think a lot of institutions become corrupt. And so when you have just like establishment narratives all the time, I think that's actually quite a dangerous thing. So, yeah, so I'm actually proud to be part of that change, even if it sort of like landed in my lap and I didn't fully understand what was happening at the time. Like looking back, I can see, yes, I am part of that movement. But at the time it happened, I was just looking at what was in front of me. So,
Mhm. Okay. Should we expect another 10 years Laura, or how do you think about the future? How should we think about the future of Unchained?
Well, I would actually maybe say it's more about my future because now that I do have these views that are so different, I'm sort of like preparing how I'm going to, make them public and exactly what I'll do in that realm. Yeah, I'm having so many thoughts right now. And hopefully it doesn't come across as too much of a tease to say all this, but the point is I'm not going anywhere. If anything, I'll be even more present. And yeah, like my biggest dream is yes, that I keep doing podcasts because I love doing podcasts. But also that I do way more books. I only got started with the one. There's a lot more. You guys, I'm a writer at heart. I'm a writer with a podcast. One of the earliest reviews of the podcast was someone critical of the podcast saying, "She sounds like a print journalist doing a podcast." And yes, that is what I am. And somehow the podcast has become a thing. I'm very pleased and happy about it. But at heart, I am a writer. That's who I am. So I look forward to having more writing for you all to read.
Well, Laura, congratulations on the 10 years. It's an
Thank
incredible
you.
achievement, and
Thank you.
very much looking forward to watching the next chapter.
Thanks. Yeah. And I'm glad that you're part of the journey. So thank you so much for doing the chopping block on Unchained.
Likewise.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining us, and we will catch you all tomorrow. Bye. Nothing you hear on Unchained is investment advice. This show is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and my guest and I may hold assets discussed on the show. For more disclosures, visit unchainedcrypto.com.